Florida, it is against the law to mislead and to misrepresent, particularly when you're talking about the efficacy of a drug. We see just recently, Florida got $3.2 billion through legal action against those responsible for the opioid crisis. And so it's not like this is something that's unprecedented. So today, I'm announcing a petition with the Supreme Court of Florida to impanel a statewide grand jury to investigate any and all wrongdoing in Florida with respect to COVID-19 vaccine.
I'm going to try to contain myself here because I saw two bits of news today that had me coming out of my chair with excitement. I saw that little bit about Florida, and they're asking the states to join a coalition to, frankly, investigate our completely corrupt and despicable federal government. And then I saw my buddy Nathan Dahm, Oklahoma State Senator, with not one, not two, but three bills that looks like he intends to use Oklahoma's state power to protect his citizens. And man, is that the way forward. I'm so freaking excited about it. Nathan, they're your bills, not my bills. So let's take them in order. Number 21, what is it?
Thank you, Jesse, for having me on. You and I understand the importance of state powers. Thank you for saying that. It's not state rights. Individuals have rights. Governments have powers that the people give to them. And the states do have power that we can use to constrain this out of control federal government. And so the first one, Senate Bill 21, would actually say that the county sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement officer in that county. They are elected by the people. And so they have a responsibility to protect the people's constitutional rights. And it says that means that any federal employee that tries to to arrest a Oklahoma citizen or that tries to do a search or seizure without going through that county sheriff, that they actually could be arrested by that county sheriff, and that the district attorney would be obligated to try that federal employee for kidnapping or attempted kidnapping. This brings some accountability into this discussion because right now these agents, whether they're FBI, ATF, IRS agents, they are all unelected bureaucrats. But that county sheriff, he has to stand before the people and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to represent you. He has to be voted in. And it's time that we put some constraints on these unelected bureaucrats that are running amok in our country.
Gosh, this kind of stuff gives me hope. Okay, now I hate to even ask this, but I'm going to ask this about all three bills. It's a great bill. Obviously, I'm on board. Is this the kind of thing that's going to pass or not?
It's going to have uphill battles. So, for instance, Senate Bill 23 is our state Second Amendment Preservation Act. I introduced it years ago. There's actually about a half dozen of us that introduced it in the state Senate. So the chair of the committee said, all right, I'm going to let one person run it. We're going to come up with kind of a consistent version. And so it was actually another senator that ended up running the bill. But leadership came in and said, hey, we need a watered down version. So we passed a bill that was basically just a statement, but there was no teeth to it. So my Senate Bill 23 actually puts teeth in that and says that if any federal entity or officer violates our Second Amendment Preservation Act and tries to do any gun grabbing measures, then they would be arrested for that. Right now, there's no teeth. That's what these, cowardly Republicans do, is they'll implement a bill and they'll say, see, we passed a Second Amendment Preservation Act that's really just a political statement that has absolutely no teeth to it. They water it down because they don't want that quote unquote conflict. But you and I realize, Jesse, that there is conflict right now because we're dealing with a Department of Justice that, well, first of all, we don't have a justice system in America anymore. We have a legal system, and that legal system is targeting pro-life protesters that are actually peacefully protesting, but at the same time, they're not bringing any prosecution against those that are firebombing these pregnancy centers or anything else. So we see that this entity, this apparatus, or as you call it, the system, is corrupted. It is working against conservatives, against Christians, against people that actually follow the Constitution. It's perverting the Constitution, and it's coming against us. And so we need the states to step up and push back. The likelihood of these passing, it's going to be an uphill battle. But, I got the nation's first ever anti-red flag bill passed. I got our constitutional carry bill passed when the rhino, weak-kneed, spineless Republicans were trying to stop that. We ended abortion in Oklahoma before the Supreme Court actually came out with the Dobbs decision. That was my bill as well. So I'm always willing to lead the charge But Jesse, I know you know this too. People like us, we're ahead of the curve because we've studied history. By looking back, we can see what's ahead of us. And so many of these other Republicans, the only thing that they're looking forward to is their next election. And so they're trying to find the middle ground, the middle of the road, do as minimal as possible, just so they can get reelected. But it's past time like that. We need a new right that's willing to stand up and punch back, like you said.
I love this so much. All right, now let me ask you this. Okay, so you have a bunch of weenie, low-T GOPers in your state house and state senate. That's not exactly news. We have tons of those here in Texas as well. But you're the one that's in this legislature. Is that improving? I know there are still a bunch of useless turds who are there, but is it getting better? Are we trending in the right direction?
Yes. So conservatives are gaining ground. Not enough. Our current leader in the Senate started out as a conservative, went down towards the path of power, and has become considerably less conservative. He's basically the Mitch McConnell of the Oklahoma State Senate. Hasn't really had a challenger because in times past he cut a deal with whoever was challenging him and offered them a position if they would step aside and support him. But we actually just had a challenger just recently step up, and of the 40 Republicans, the vote came down 21-19. So it was very, very close. That we were able to almost replace the rhino that's in there right now, that has appointed all the liberals in the Republican caucus to the leadership positions and stuff. So right now they still have pretty much full control, but the scales are getting very close to tipping. And I'm going to continue to be that thorn in their side and exposing them. They don't like people like me being vocal about it because then they have to contrast themselves to that. If everybody just sits down and shuts up and nobody points out their hypocrisies and what they're doing, then the general public doesn't know. So I appreciate how you are exposing them as well, and talking about how we need real leaders that are willing to stand up and fight and say what needs to be said, not worried about people's feelings or how they're going to get hurt by that. Words don't actually hurt that much. So we got to speak the truth, man.
Go get them, Nathan. Gosh, this fires me up. You keep going, boss. I'm behind you, all right? Appreciate you.
Thanks for what you do, Jesse. Keep it up, man.